Okay, so we are now recording and we are going to start our discussion. Okay, so for module number 7, it is identifying the different types of solutions. Now, before we begin, let us have the objectives. We have no objectives here, pero nasa module, sige. So, let us define first what the solution is. May mga gusto pa rin mag-join. Okay. So I would suggest for you to make use of Finma at Gmail when you log into our Google Meet para mag-automatic na join na siya, okay? So going back, when we say solutions, it is a classification of mixture where only one phase can be seen. So the components are not distinguishable by the unaided eye. So when we speak of solutions, isa siya sa tatlong types ng mixture. Di ba, remember in your STM005, we defined matter as being either pure substance or mixture. Pure substance kapag chemically combined siya or element lang siya. Kapag mixture naman, hindi sila nag-chemically combine, na-retain nila yung kanilang original na characteristic, pero it could be divided into two, homogeneous and heterogeneous. Pag sinabi natin na homogeneous, homo meaning one, ibig sabihin it is a type of mixture wherein you can only see one phase. So for example, kapag nag-dissolve ka ng salt sa water, then it is a type of homogeneous mixture kasi hindi mo naman na makikita yung salt particles na nakadissolve sa water. The other one is heterogeneous mixture. When we say heterogeneous, hetero meaning different. So this is a type of mixture wherein you can see the different components ng isang mixture. So for example, we have table salt and sand. If we're going to mix table salt and sand, you will still be able to identify which is the table salt and which is the sand. Okay? Now, solutions are composed of two substances. These are your solute. Sorry. Why cannot one? Bakit hindi ako makagamit ng pen? Samantalang kanina okay lang nakagamit ako ng pen. Okay. So, it is composed of two. We have the solute and the solvent. Kapag sabi natin na solute, ito yung tinutunaw or to be more specific, ito yung mas mababa ang percentage niya sa isang substance. Kapag sinabi naman natin na solvent, ito yung nangtutunaw or to be more specific, ito yung mas marami ang kanyang amount as compared to the solute. Okay? So, for example, you're going to add 10 grams of vinegar with 50 grams of water. Yung mas mababang amount, which is the vinegar, siya yung solute. Yung mas mataas ang amount, yun yung solvent, which is the water. Okay? Now, there are different examples of solutes and solvents. It could be in liquid, it could be a solid, or it could be a gas. So, an example of a liquid is the vinegar and water or alcohol and water. Liquid to liquid siya. So, solute and solvent. So long as you are only going to see one phase or hindi mo na ma-identify yung mga components, then that is a solution. Another example, salt water, solid and liquid. The solid is the salt, the liquid is the water. Another example, air, mixture of different gases. So sa atmosphere natin, we actually have 21% oxygen, 78% na nitrogen, and 1% other gases. And yet, you cannot distinguish kung alin ang nitrogen and oxygen gas based on our eyes. Okay? Another example ng solid naman na solution, we have the alloys. When we say alloys, this is a mixture of a solid and, this is a mixture of two metals kapag sabi natin na alloy. So for example, we have the bronze. Kasi kapag sa mga metals, we have the silver, the gold, and the bronze. The silver is an element, nasa pure substance siya. So is gold, nasa element din siya, under pure substance. Samantalang yung bronze, this is a type of mixture wherein it is composed of copper and tin. Okay, so mixture siya under solution. Another form of, another type of solution na kung saan siya ay solid ay yung stainless steel. So stainless steel is actually made up of many different types of metals. Now we go to the different types of solution based on their concentration. When we say concentration, ito yung kung gaano karaming solute sa solvent. Okay? So an example of this is when you are going to make juice. So for example, orange juice. Kapag masyadong konti yung nilagay mo na orange powder, it is dilute or unsaturated. Kapag masyadong marami naman, then that is supersaturated. So yun yung ating concentration. So for example, we also have your lemon juice. If you're going to create lemonade, kapag mas marami kang lemon na nilalagay, mas concentrated siya. Okay? So these are the different degrees of concentration. We have unsaturated, saturated, and supersaturated. Okay. Hindi talaga ako makapag-pen, samantalang kanina nakakapag-pen ako. Okay. Now let's go to unsaturated. Now, ang mga substances kasi natin, for example, water, meron siyang specific amount ng mga solute na kaya niya lang i-dissolve. So for example, meron kang 1 litro ng tubig. Yung 1 litrong tubig na yon, ang maximum amount ng salt na kaya niyang i-dissolve ay 350 grams. Okay? So kapag nag 351 ka na, hindi na niya madi-dissolve yung 1 gram na dinagdag mo na sobra. So an example of an unsaturated solution or a solution that has low concentration of solute ay nagdagdag ka lang ng 1 gram of salt sa 1 liter of water. 1 gram of salt, i-dissolve mo sa 1 liter of water, di ba ang maximum amount ng salt na kayang i-dissolve ng water ay 350 grams of salt. Kapag mas mababa, ibig sabihin, meron pa siyang kakayanan na mag-dissolve pa ng mas marami. Kung meron pa siyang kakayanan na mag-dissolve pa na mas marami, ibig sabihin, hindi pa na-reach yung maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved. So therefore, it is a dilute solution or unsaturated solution. Okay? Paano naman kapag saturated? When we say saturated, this is a solution that contains the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved into the solvent at a given temperature. For example, we have your normal room temperature, which is 25 degrees. So for example, meron kang 350 grams ng salt at inad mo yon sa 1 liter of water. If you're going to dissolve 350 grams of salt to 1 liter of water at yun yung kayang i-dissolve ng water, then that means the type of solution is saturated. Kapag na-equal na sa maximum amount of solute ang na-dissolve, then that is saturated. Paano kapag naglagay ka ng 500 grams of salt sa 1 liter of water? Eh, ang kaya niya lang ay 350. Ano mangyayari doon sa 150 grams ng salt? It will not be dissolved anymore. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit kapag kayo ay nagtitimpla ng kung ano man yan, meron yung mga kahit na anong kiwal or kahit na anong paghalo niyong gawin, hindi na natutunaw pa. Okay? Ibig sabihin, na-reach na yung maximum amount of solute na kayang i-dissolve. Ibig sabihin, yung excess, it will remain suspended sa solution. Hindi na siya mamimix. So that is saturated. When we say super saturated naman, this is only possible if there is an introduction of heat. Kapag merong heat or mataas yung temperature or mainit yung bagay, then that means it will be able to dissolve more than the maximum amount. If 350 grams of salt is the maximum amount that can be dissolved in 1 liter of water, kapag nagdagdag ka pa at ininit mo yan, that means mas lalong matutunaw pa yung mga mas matutunaw pa, hindi lang 350 grams ang salt na madidissolve, mas tataas pa yung kaya niyang tunawin kasi meron kang introduction of heat. Yun nga lang kasi, ang mangyayari dyan kapag hindi na mainit or kapag tinanggal mo yung heat, yung excess na na-dissolve, they will undergo crystallization. So babalik uli siya sa pagiging solid. Yung na-dissolve na sobra, it will return to its solid form. So that is super saturated. This is a solution that can contain more solute than normal by raising the temperature of the solvent. Now, we are done with the concentration of solution based on their degrees of concentration. We will now tackle the quantitative expressions of concentration of solution. When we say quantitative, we're going to give values or numbers kung gaano ka-concentrated ang isang bagay. There are many ways in which we could express the concentration of solutions quantitatively. We have percent by mass, percent by volume, parts per million, parts per billion, mole fraction, molarity, molality, normality. All of these were discussed during face-to-face. And when I also discussed this in college, when I taught in college. Yun nga lang kasi because of the time constraint that we have, we're only going to have percent by mass and percent by volume under solution. Okay? Hindi na kasama yung parts per million, parts per billion, mole fraction, molarity, molality, normality. So let's go with percent by mass. So one way to represent the concentration of a substance in a solution would be percent by mass. This is expressed as the mass of one component divided by the total mass of the solution times 100. Times 100 because this is percent, di ba? So the formula is mass percent is equal to mass of the solute over the mass of the solution times 100. Okay, wait lang sandali. Let me try something in case that it will work. So I will make use of Microsoft Whiteboard and then import na lang yung PowerPoint slide. So far, do you have any question regarding our topic, regarding the expression of solution based on the degrees of concentration? If there are no question, raise your hand. How to import? Okay. I apologize for the delay. Let me just see if I could import this PowerPoint into our Microsoft Word in order for me to be able to write down para mas maintindihan. Okay, ayan. I am going to present my whiteboard. Okay. So this is our formula. Percent by mass is equal to the mass of solute over the mass of solution times 100. So we know the mass of the solute, yun yung ating tinutunaw or yung mas mababa ang concentration or mas mababa ang value. What about the mass of the solution? How do we get the mass of the solution? In our first slide, we have discussed that the solution is composed of the solute plus solvent. So that means dito, When we say mass of the solution, this is equal to the sum of the solute plus solvent. Okay? So, let me check if nag-appear nga. Okay. So, pagpasensya nyo na yung sulat. So, that is how we get the mass of the solution. Now, let's go to the first question, which is percent by mass. So, determine the percent by mass of 13 grams of tin in 270 grams of bronze alloy. Now, in this case, nakalagay dito sa ating question na hanapin natin yung percent by mass ng tin. Naka-specify kung alin ang substance na hinahanap natin. So, this is the tin. Tapos, ang hinahanap natin ay yung percent by mass niya based doon sa 270 grams ng alloy. Ngayon, ang tanong dyan ay, naka-mix na ba yung 13 grams doon sa 270 grams na alloy or hindi pa? Yes or no? Ilagay sa ating in-call messages ang sagot. Dito sa ating question, yung 13 grams ba ng tin ay nakahalo na ba sa 270 grams or hindi pa? Yes or no? Okay, so that's right. Tama ang mga sagot nila. Miles, Ursel, Kyle, Jan, Maxime, Shane. So sila muna. So tama ang kanilang sagot na nakahalo na. Kasi kailangan nating alamin kung nakahalo na o hindi pa. Kasi kapag hindi natin ma-recognize kung nakamix na or hindi pa, magkakamali tayo ng computation. Okay. So in this case, ang mass ng tin natin ay 13 grams, naka-indicate dito. So that is 13 grams. Now we have to identify yung mass ng solution. So since nakahalo na siya, there's no need to add 270 with 13, di ba? Kasi yung 270 grams, naka-join na dyan yung 13 grams tin. So our denominator will be 270 grams. So therefore, 13 divided by 270, of course, cancel the units. It will be equal to 4.81%. So that means the mass percent of tin in the 270 gram bronze alloy is 4.81. Make sure to make use your own computation or have your own calculator in order for you to be able to fully understand our discussion. Because kagaya ng sinasabi ko palagi, the best way to learn is to do it yourself. Another example, percent by mass. An aqueous solution contains 0.7 kilograms of water and 45 grams of sodium hydroxide. What is the percent by mass of sodium hydroxide? Now, in this case, kapag sinabi niyang aqueous solution, ibig sabihin nakamix sa water. So, ano yung nakamix sa water? Yung 45 grams ng sodium hydroxide. Now, in this case, we know that the solute is the sodium hydroxide kasi siya yung mas mababa yung amount. Tapos yun yung hinahanap dito. So we're going to determine the percent by mass of sodium hydroxide. So the first one is, what is the mass of sodium hydroxide? Naka-indicate it is 45 grams. So yun yung ating numerator. Next, sa denominator natin ay dapat solution. In this question, naka-indicate na ba kung nakamix na ang ating solute at solvent or hindi pa? Sa ating in-call messages, i-type ang sagot. Nakamix na ba yung sodium hydroxide sa water, yung overall weight niya? Okay, correct. Tama yung mga sagot ninyo. Tama ang sagot nila Miles, Berniline, Revelyn, Ursel, Joy, Tricia, Dalmar, Ian, Jan, and Angela. Hindi pa nakamix. So that means we have to add yung ating solute, which is the 45 grams, and yung solvent, which is 0.7 kilogram. There's another problem. Magkaiba sila ng unit. Yung isa kilogram, yung isa gram. Do not proceed with the computation if they are not the same unit. So you have to convert grams to kilograms or kilograms to grams. Bahala kayo kasi pareho lang ang percent na lalabas. Basta tama yung conversion ninyo. In our case, we're going to convert kilograms to grams. So in 1 kilogram, in 1 kilogram, this is equal to 1,000 grams. So if you're going to convert 0.7 kilogram to grams, so 0.7 times 1,000, it will be equal to 700. So our solute is 45 grams. Our solvent is solute plus solvent. This is the solute. This is the solvent. So all in all, our denominator will be 745. So 45 divided by 745 times 100, you will be left with 6.04%. Okay? So far naintindihan naman ba? Okay. Another example. Find the masses of sodium chloride and water required to obtain 175 grams of 15% solution. So dito sa question na to, if we're going to analyze it, yung total mass daw ng solution ay 175 grams. Okay? Tapos, 15% daw siya na compromise, 15% daw siya na comprise ng sodium chloride. The rest is water. So how do we determine the mass of the solute and the mass of the solution? Mass of the solvent. So simple lang. Ito yung overall total. Remember, ito yung overall total, di ba? Kunin mo lang yung 15% niya. So 175 grams times 15%, that will be the mass of the sodium chloride. Okay, so 175 grams times 15%, it will be equal to 26.25 grams of sodium chloride. That is the solute. Ang gawin mo na lang, i-minus mo na lang yung solvent, i-minus mo na lang yung solute doon sa solution to get your solvent. Remember that solution is equal to solute plus solvent. Kapag meron kang solution, ibawas mo lang doon yung solute, ang matitira na doon ay solvent. So the mass of the solution, which is 175 grams, minus the mass of the solute, which is 26.25, the answer for the mass of the solvent will be 148.75 grams. Nagkamali lang ng number. It's 148.75 grams of water. Any questions so far? If there are, raise your hand. Okay, tama si Bernilyn. We have to convert the units to make sure na tama ang magiging sagot natin. Okay, next. Ayoko ng blue. Red na lang. Meron kang dalawang brass alloy. The brass alloy of number 1 is 350 grams. Ayaw naman sumulat. Yung brass alloy nung isa ay 350 grams. Doon sa 350 grams daw na yon, so number 1, so brass alloy number 1 is equal to 350 grams. Doon daw sa 350 grams na yun, it is composed of the solute and the solvent. The solute is the solute is 150 grams of zinc. And yung isa naman ay 200 grams ng copper. So this is solute number 1. Si solute number 2 naman daw, 200 grams daw yung ating alloy. So si solute number 2, 200 grams yung alloy. At dito sa 200 grams na ito, it is composed of 34% zinc. So 34% zinc. And then the rest ay copper. What will be, okay, ang tanong dito ay kapag tinunaw sila at pinaghalo, ano na ngayon yung magiging percent by mass ng zinc? So yung zinc ang concern natin dito. Now, in order to proceed with this, we have to find out first kung ilan yung 34% ng 200. So the 34% of 200 is, lagay sa ating in-call messages, ilan ang 34% ng 200? Anyone? So in order to get the percent of the zinc, we have to multiply 200 with 34%. Okay, so tama ang mga sagot na lumalabas sa ating in-call messages. Tama si Maxine, Christine, Cheyenne, Revelyn, Joanna, Ursel, Lymar, si Berneline na doble yung sagot niya, Angela, Marinella. Okay, tama yung mga sagot ng, tama lahat ang inyong sagot. So 68 grams yung equivalent nun. So this is equal to 68 grams. Ngayon naman, we are going to add the two alloys. So una, ilagay natin yung solute or yung kung ano yung hinahanap natin, which is a percent by mass of zinc. So since zinc yung hinahanap natin, yung percent by mass niya, dapat siya ang magiging numerator. So yung unang alloy, it is 150 grams daw yung zinc. So ayan yung 150. Okay. Next, ilan yung zinc doon sa pangalawang alloy? Yung kinumpute natin, which is 68 grams. So yan yung 68 ngayon. So ipag-add natin sila. Sila yung magiging numerator natin. Next naman, for the denominator. Ang denominator natin ay yung overall value or overall weight ng solution. So sa number 1, alloy number 1, 35 grams daw siya. So ayon si 35 grams. Tapos si alloy number 2 ay 200 grams daw siya. So all in all, ang lalabas yan ay 150 plus 68 divided by the sum of 350 plus 200. So it will become 218 divided by 550 times 100. Your answer will become 39.64. So ganun lang kadali ang ating percent by mass. Okay? Wala naman tayong nilagay na trick question sa seat work tapos sa exam. Next, we go to percent by volume. Same lang siya sa percent by mass. Ang pinagkaiba lang nila ay yung unit, which is volume. For volume, ang ginagamit natin ay milliliter, liter. Ganon. So, another way to express the the concentration of a solution kapag sila ay nasa liquid form is by percent by volume. So, this is the same. Volume of the solute divided by total volume of the solution times 100. So napalitan lang yung unit instead of mass, naging volume lang. So let us have an example. Determine the percent by volume of 15 milliliter ethanol in 0.5 liter alcohol solution. So ang hinahanap natin ay percent by volume ng ethanol. So our solute is ethanol, which is 15 ml. In the entire solution, ang total volume daw ay 0.5 liter. Kasi sa question, if we're going to analyze this, nakahalo na yung 15 ml doon sa 0.5 liters. So our numerator will be 15 ml. The denominator will be the entire solution, the volume of the entire solution. Magkaiba na naman sila ng unit, so we have to convert again. So in 1 liter, it is equal to 1,000 ml. So if we're going to convert 0.5 liter, 0.5 times 1,000, it will be equal to 500 ml. Okay? So 15 divided by 500 times 100, you will get 3% na percent by volume of ethanol. Any questions so far? If there are no question, then mag-type ng heart sa ating in-call messages. Kapag meron naman, unmute yourself and then ask the question. Okay, so wala naman na masyadong tanong. Okay, that's nice. Now we'll proceed with module number 8 and 9. Let me just clear my whiteboard. So I will import our PowerPoint for modules 8 and 9. Okay, since black ang ating background, I will make use of a lighter color. Now, module number 8 is about distinguishing the energy changes in a chemical reaction. Wala na ako agad, boses. So, lesson objectives, differentiate endothermic and exothermic processes, and then explain the first law of thermodynamics. Actually, medyo mahaba-haba ito. Yun nga lang because of the time constraint that we're experiencing, ginawa natin na short ang ating discussion dito sa thermochemistry. So, energy and chemical reactions. If you can still remember our STM005, dinefine natin ang chemistry, di ba? As a branch of science that deals with number one, properties of matter. Ito yung phases of matter, solid, liquid, gas, plasma, Bose-Einstein. Andito din yung intensive properties, extensive properties. Nandito din yung mga chemical and physical properties ng substances. Next, we have composition and structure. Yun yung mixture, yun yung pure substance. Yung structure, yun yung kanilang arrangement ng atoms. And then, changes that substance undergo. Ito yung chemical reactions. Next, we have energy that accompanies these changes. Dito na yun, pumapasok yung ating definition ng chemistry. So, in this case, we have the energy and chemical reactions. Paano nga ba gumagana ang cold pack at hot pack? So, when we say chemical reactions, ito yung rearrangement of atoms. Okay? Now, when atoms rearrange themselves, when they undergo chemical reaction, it always involves changes in their energy. Either they will gain energy as they undergo reaction, or if they will release energy as they go the reaction. Now, this arrangement of atoms also involve creating bonds. Nandito yung mga metallic bond, covalent bond, ionic bond. And in breaking these bonds and in creating bonds, energy is always involved. So for example, sa mga burning of organic substances, like for example, sa mga petroleum gases, the burning of petroleum gas, or sometimes yung ating mga gasoline, the burning of these substances will always involve release of heat. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit gumagana yung mga machineries natin na powered by these gases. Yung pag-break ng mga bonds from a hydrocarbon with the addition of oxygen, kapag sinusunog kasi lagi mayroong addition of oxygen, they produce carbon dioxide and water, and of course, energy. Now, these changes in energy could either be absorbed or released. Kapag sinabi natin na released, it is exothermic. Exo, ibig sabihin to exit the system, lalabas sa system. So that means it releases energy in the form of heat or light. So this is seen in chemical reaction of burning of wood. Kasi kapag nagsusunog ka ng kahoy, yun yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit umiinit yung kapaligiran mo, di ba? Yun ay dahil nagre-release ng heat ang pag-burn ng wood. So that is exothermic. Tumataas ang temperature ng kapaligiran. So energy is given off. So ito yung reaction natin. So sa burning of wood, nandito yung reaction. Ito yung pagsusunog ng kahoy. So heat will be spread towards the surrounding ng ating reaction. So what will happen is, in an exothermic reaction, the product will feel hot. So we could actually identify in a chemical equation if it is exothermic or endothermic based on the reaction kapag makikita natin yung location ng ating energy or heat. In this case, kapag exothermic, ang heat ay makikita sa product side. Kapag may nakita tayo na heat or energy or may joules dito, joules is the unit of energy or kilojoules. Kapag lahat yun ay nasa product side, then we know for a fact that the type of reaction is exothermic. Okay? What about if the energy is absorbed? If the energy is absorbed, then it means the reaction is endothermic. Endo meaning into or to enter, or it will go inside. The energy from the surrounding will go inside the system. So this is seen in chemical reaction of cooking. Actually, lahat ng form ng cooking, it involves endothermic. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit naluluto yung mga pagkain. This is because the heat from the pan is being absorbed by the food that you are cooking. Habang inaabsorb niya yung heat coming off from the pan, ay nagkakaroon ng chemical changes sa loob ng ating niluluto. Kaya siya naluluto. Now, the temperature of the surrounding will decrease. So, ayan. So, malalaman natin sa chemical reaction na isa siyang endothermic kapag ang energy or heat or kilojoules or joules ay nasa reactant side. Kapag nasa reactant side ang ating energy or heat or kilojoules, then that means the process is endothermic. Ibig sabihin, kailangan ng heat in order for the chemical reaction to take place. Kasi ang pagkain, hindi naman yan basa-basa na lang biglang maluluto. You have to introduce heat to the to the substances in order for them to undergo chemical changes. Okay? So, for example dito, so number 1, alamin kung ito ay endo or exo. So, para madali, sa in-call messages, tignan natin kapag endothermic siya, type N. Letter N lang. Kapag exothermic, type X. Okay? So, for number 1, aluminum plus oxygen to produce aluminum oxide plus heat. Is this endo or exo? Type N for endo, type X for exo. Okay, tama ang sagot ng lahat. X for exo kasi ang heat or ang ating unit of energy is in the product side. So, exothermic. Next, number 2. Is it endo or exo? N for endo, X for exo. Okay, correct. Lahat ay tamang sagot. Endothermic siya kasi may heat sa reactant side. Ibig sabihin, it needs heat in order to undergo chemical changes or chemical reaction. Okay, number 3, endo or exo? Okay, correct. Since ang ating unit of energy ay nasa product side, it is exothermic. Next, number 4, carbon dioxide plus water plus heat. Okay, since ang heat ay nasa reactant side, it is endothermic kaya N. Lastly, number 5, endo or exo? Okay, correct. Magaling. Bakit siya endothermic? Kasi dito sa may arrow side, meron tayong triangle. This triangle denotes that heat will be introduced to the chemical reaction. So since idadagdag mo yung heat doon sa substance para magkaroon ng chemical reaction, that means this is an example of endothermic. Very good. So tama. Madali lang mag-discriminate if it is endothermic or exothermic kapag alam natin kung nasaan ang location ng energy or heat. So these are the answers. Okay, next, another example. Ito naman naka-sentence form siya. Number 1, thermal decomposition of limestone to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. 1 to 5 lang ang ating gagawin para hindi tayo masyadong makulangan sa time. So number 1, is it endo or exo? Okay, tama si Bernilyn kasi yung triangle ibig sabihin introduction of heat. Number 1, thermal decomposition of limestone to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Is it endo or exo? N or X? Okay, correct. Endothermic. Kasi thermal decomposition, ibig sabihin it needs heat to decompose. So this is endothermic. Number 2, explosion of a firecracker triggered by a spark. Endothermic or exothermic? Bakit may Z na wrong type? Okay, correct. It is exothermic. Number 3, combustion of hydrogen gas. Endo or exo? Okay. Lahat ng mga may involved na combustion, ibig sabihin lahat sila ay exothermic. Number 4, burning of coal. Okay, correct. It is still exothermic. Pag burning, pag combustion, kapag heat decomposition or thermal decomposition, then that is exothermic. And then number 5, neutralization between acid and base. May kulang siya sa sentence. Neutralization between acid and base produces heat. Okay, correct. Kahit na hindi ko na kompleto yung tanong, alam nyo pa rin ang sagot. That is exothermic kasi nagpo-produce ng heat kapag nagkaroon ng neutralization reaction. Okay? So that is module number 8 under exothermic and endothermic. We now go to the first law of thermodynamics. First, let us define what thermochemistry is. We know what chemistry is. This is the study of science that deals with changes of matter as it undergoes at kung ano-ano pa. Yun nga lang, nagdagdag tayo ng word na thermo. When we say thermo, it means heat. So when we say thermochemistry, this is the study of how heat affects the chemical reaction. Or in a more specific term, this is the study of how heat will flow as a chemical reaction undergoes. So it will be either absorbed or released. So heat is the energy transfer due to the change or difference in temperature until equilibrium is reached. So let us have an example. Di ba yung ice, yellow, malamig? Habang tumatagal natutunaw siya, bakit kaya? Heat is being absorbed kasi by the ice until such time that the heat of the surrounding and the heat of the ice will become equal. Okay? Now, in thermodynamics, dynamics meaning movement, thermo meaning heat. So this is how heat moves based on the chemical reaction. The world is divided into two, the system and the surrounding. So when we say system, this is the part of the universe na pinag-aaralan natin or kung saan tayo nakafocus. So for example, ang pinag-aaralan natin ay chemical reaction sa test tube. So ang system natin ay yung nasa loob ng test tube. Okay? When we say surrounding naman is anything in the universe na nakasurround doon sa pinag-aaralan natin. So meaning nandiyan tayo, nandiyan yung heat ng surrounding, andiyan yung ano pa ba? Mga many factors that could affect the system. Okay? So based on this picture, makikita natin na ito yung system and then we have the surrounding. Kung si system ay nag-release ng heat, the system releases heat, sino ang mag-absorb? Of course, the surrounding. Kung si surrounding ay nag-release ng heat, sino ang mag-absorb? Of course, si system. So that is their relationship. Inverse ang kanilang relationship. Inverse meaning opposite. Kung si system nag-release ng heat, ang mag-absorb naman si surrounding. Kung si surrounding ay nag-release ng heat, ang mag-absorb ay si system. Okay? Now we go to energy changes Q. Q is the unit for heat. So heat could either be positive or negative based on the flow or the movement of heat. If the heat is endothermic, sorry, if the process is endothermic, then heat is positive. Q is positive. Kapag exothermic naman siya, then Q is negative. Okay? Paano natin malalaman kapag endothermic or exothermic? Malalaman natin na endothermic kapag system absorbs heat. Absorbs heat. Malalaman natin na exothermic kapag system releases heat. Okay? Endothermic, inabsorb ni system yung heat. Exothermic, nirelease ni system yung heat. Or, in other terms, magiging endothermic kapag ang surrounding releases heat. Bakit kaya magiging positive or magiging endothermic ang reaction kapag nag-release si surrounding ng heat? Kasi 'di ba sino ba ang mag-absorb ng heat na ni-release ni surrounding? Si system, 'di ba? So that means heat will be absorbed by the system if the surrounding will be the one to release the heat. Next is another way in which a reaction will become exothermic if sorry, another way if the another way to determine if the reaction is exothermic is if the surrounding absorbs heat. Bakit kaya? Kasi kapag si surrounding ay nag-absorb ng heat, kanino nang galing yung heat? Kay system, 'di ba? So ibig sabihin, wala namang i-absorb na heat si surrounding kapag hindi nag-release si system. So that means if the surrounding absorbs heat, then the reaction is also exothermic. Okay, I hope you take note of this. Baka mamaya may mga malito. So this is the formula for the first law of thermodynamics. The total the total energy of the system is equal to the total energy of the surrounding that is being released. So kung si system ay nag-absorb ng energy, so that means nag-release sa surrounding ng energy. Kung kung nag-absorb si system ng 100 joules of energy, that means ilan ang ni-release ni surrounding? 100 joules din ang ni-release niya. Equal but opposite value. If the surrounding is positive 100 joules, then that means the system has absorbed heat. Then the surrounding means negative siya kasi siya yung nag-release. So the value of the system or the value of the energy of the system is equal to the opposite of the value of the energy of the surrounding. So if the system has absorbed 100 joules of heat, then that means the surrounding has released 100 joules of heat. Another way is another way is to compute using Q plus W, where Q is heat or energy, W is work. The value of Q and W could either be positive or negative. The value of Q or heat will become positive if endothermic or heat is absorbed. Q is positive if heat is absorbed by the system. It will become negative if heat is released by the system. Okay? Wait, let me charge my laptop. Next, what about work? Work will become positive if work is done on the system. Ibig sabihin, iba ang gumawa ng work para kay system. So, hindi nagtatrabaho si system, iba ang nagtatrabaho para sa kanya, kaya magiging positive siya. Pero kapag si system mismo ang gumawa ng work, it will become negative. Work will become negative. Okay, I hope na nagkakaintindihan tayo regarding the value of work and energy. Work and heat. Wait lang sandali. Nag-charge ako ng laptop. Okay. Now, in order for us to better understand this, let us have these simple computations under the first law of thermodynamics. So number one, calculate the change in energy for the following processes and identify if endothermic or isothermic. So number one, a gas releases 35 joules of heat as 84 joules of work was done to compress it. First, let us identify the Q and the W. So dito, 35 joules of heat, that is our Q. Yung 84 joules of work, that is our work. Next, sino ang system, sino ang surrounding? So dito sa number one, a gas releases 35 joules of heat. So ibig sabihin, nakafocus tayo doon sa gas. So that means this is the system. Okay? Next, the change in energy of the system is equal to Q plus W. Our Q is 35 joules of heat. This is positive or negative? Ang nakalagay dito ay release. So that means, excuse, it is exothermic. Excuse. Kapag exothermic ang reaction natin, or nag-release ng energy or nag-release ng heat si system, our value will become negative. Kaya nakalagay dito ay negative 35 joules. Plus, next, our value of W. Ang W natin ay 84 joules of work. So, 84 joules. Next, sino ang gumawa ng work? Yung gas ba ang gumawa ng work? Or iba ang gumawa ng work para sa gas? So, according to the question, 84 joules of work was done to compress it. Hindi naman sinabi na, and it does 84 joules of work. Diba? So, sinabi dito na 84 joules of work was done to compress it. So, ang gumawa ng work dito ay yung surrounding. So, hindi nag-effort si gas, kaya positive ang kanyang magiging value. Next, ipag-add natin. Negative 35 plus positive 84 joules. Wait lang, I will have my calculator too. So, what will be our answer? Okay, correct. Tama si Shane at si Maxim, si Revelin. Our answer is 49. Is it positive or negative? It is positive. So this will be equal to positive 49 joules. Okay. Now, alam na natin na ang total change in energy of the system is positive 49 joules. Is it endothermic or exothermic? Since positive siya, kapag positive, it means it is endothermic. So positive siya, kaya endothermic. Kapag negative naman ang final answer, it is exothermic. And for endothermic, X for exothermic. Okay? So hopefully, madaling intindihin, di ba? Ay, ayun, meron na palang answer dito. Another question, calculate the change in energy for the following processes and identify, okay, same instruction. Number 2, a gas absorbs 48 joules of heat as it does 72 joules of work by expanding. So, alamin natin kung ano yung mga given, 48 joules of heat and 72 joules of work. So, this is heat, kaya ito ay Q. Work, kaya ito ay W. Next, yung values nila, if they are positive or negative, yung symbol nila. So dito, a gas absorbs 48 joules of heat. So inabsorb ni gas, si gas uli yung ating system. So since nag-absorb ng heat si gas, it is positive. So it will become positive 48. Ayan. Next, it does 72 joules of work. Ang gumawa ng work ay si gas. So nagtatrabaho siya, na-stress siya, kaya negative. Negative kasi siya yung nagtrabaho mismo. Maski kayo, di ba, kapag kayo yung pinagtrabaho, magiging negative kayo, may stress kayo, di ba? Pero kapag schedule nyo, dapat kayo yung maghugas ng pinggan, pero iba ang naghugas para sa inyo, magiging masaya kayo, kaya magiging positive. So, I hope you get the analogy kahit na medyo far away. Okay, so, siya ang gumawa ng work, si gas ang gumawa ng work, kaya negative, kasi siya yung nagpakapagod. So, negative 72 joules. So our final answer here is positive 48 plus negative 42. So this is equal to, what's your answer? Type it down in our in-call messages. Okay, so correct. Tama ang inyong mga sagot. It is negative 24. So it is equal to negative 24 joules. Never forget the unit. And since this is negative, that means this is exothermic. Okay? Number 3. What is the work done by a system when it absorbs 47 joules of heat and gain 12 joules of energy? Now, in this case, work naman ang hinahanap natin. Okay? So, ang formula natin ay the total energy of the system is equal to Q plus W. Para makuha natin yung work, kailangan nating ibawas yung heat doon sa total energy. Okay, lakihan natin. So, sinabi dito na ito yung ating Q, ito yung ating energy. The unit of our, the symbol of our heat, dahil inabsorb ng system, sabi niya dito, the system absorbs the heat. So this will become positive. The unit of our energy, sabi niya dito, gain. So gain means nag-absorb siya. So that this is positive. Kapag sinabi naman dito na, ang nakalagay kasi dito, and gain 12 joules of energy, kaya positive. So kapag sinabi niya dito na lose, then magiging negative yung energy natin. Okay? Excuse. So, if we're going to convert this, it will become this. Para makuha natin yung work, yung the total energy of the system, ibawas natin doon yung heat. So, this will be equal to, the total energy of the system is positive 12 joules, and then minus the total, the heat, which is 47 or positive 47 joules. So our answer here is, so 12 minus positive 47, this will be equal to, okay, tama. Tama si Shane, si Maxine, si Revelyn, si Christine. Negative 35 joules. Ay, negative 35 joules. So that means this is the amount of work. Next, number 4. How much heat is released by a system when 45 joules of work is done on it to increase its energy to 35 joules? Okay, dito naman, ang given natin ay 45 joules of work. And then, 23 joules naman yung energy. So, our formula is the same. The total energy of the system is equal to Q plus W. Our W is 45 joules of work is done on it. So, iba ang gumawa ng work para sa system. So, this is positive W. And then, in this case, sabi niya, to decrease its energy. Pinababa yung energy. So, that means our E is negative. So, our computation will be equal to the total energy of the system, which is negative 23 joules, minus the total work. In this case, positive. So, positive 45 joules. So, the answer here will be what is our answer in this case? Ulitin natin kasi sabi niya dito, 45 joules of work is done on it. So, ibang gumawa ng work para dun sa system, kaya positive. Tapos sabi niya, to decrease its energy. So, ibig sabihin, negative ang value ng ating energy kasi decrease eh. Kaya, negative ang ating energy. So, negative 23 joules minus positive 45 joules. Our final answer is correct, negative 68. Tama ang sagot nila Cheyenne, Jan, Revelyn, Joanna, Ursel, Ian, Joy, Christine, Maxine, Bernilyn. So, negative 68. I hope you do not have any uh, misunderstanding dito sa ating first law of thermodynamics. Do you have any question? If you have questions, raise your hand. Kung wala, sa ating in-call messages, maglagay ng smile na emoticon or emoji. Okay, that's great. There are no questions so far. So that means naintindihan ng ating discussion. Now, thank you for the reacts, for the messages. Ang cute nung kay Maxine. Thank you for those. Now we are going to go to module number 9, which is describing the heat flow and calorimetry. Kasi di ba kanina we have discussed that thermochemistry is the heat flow of the, it involves the flow of heat in a chemical reaction. Now, heat can be transferred between objects due to temperature differences. Okay? Now, the transfer of energy is from higher to lower. So, for example, hahawak ka ng ice. Of course, mas mataas ang temperature mo because your body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. Yung ice ay 0 degrees Celsius. So since mas mataas ang temperature mo, the movement of the heat will be from you towards the ice until such time that equilibrium is achieved. Equilibrium, ibig sabihin, pantay na yung temperature. Okay. Now, calorimetry is the measurement of flow of heat through a system and its surrounding. When we say calorimetry, calorie meaning heat. Calorie, it is one of the Greek terms meaning heat or energy. Metry comes from the Greek word metrion, meaning to measure. So we are measuring the heat flow in this one. The formula to calculate the heat flow is Q for heat is equal to mc delta T, where m is equal to mass in grams. But kailangan grams kasi our unit for C or the specific heat for substances is joules over gram Celsius. So that means all of the units ng Q, ng M, at ng T should be coming or should be the same as with the specific heat. So since ang unit natin ng specific heat for mass is grams, dapat grams din yung ating mass. For energy, joules, kaya dapat joules din ang ating energy. For temperature, degrees Celsius, so that means Celsius dapat. So QC delta T, M is for mass in grams, C is for the specific heat of the substances. Meron tayong table para malaman yung kanilang specific heat. And then delta T means change in temperature. Hindi na natin sinama yan. So these are the different various specific heat capacities. Ito yung ating unit, di ba? Joules over gram degree Celsius. So mapapansin ninyo na ang mga metal, they have much lower specific heat. Kasi mas readily sila na mag-absorb ng heat. Actually, hindi lang metal, pati mga solid substances. Mas capable sila na mag-absorb ng heat. Kaya mas mababa ang kanilang specific heat. Kaya kapag kung sakali na kayo ay magluluto at nag-rush kayo, then it would be best to make use of a, what do you call this? Other term for wok, frying pan. The best way, the best frying pan to use is the one with the lowest specific heat. Kasi ibig sabihin, mas madali siyang uminit. Ganun din sa pagkain, kung sakaling magluluto ka na kailangan na ilaga ng matagal, tapos yung isa naman ay instant, it would be best na yung instant na yung iluto mo kasi mas mababa yung kanilang specific heat. Okay? So, the best desired na gagamitin kapag ikaw ay magluluto ay yung mga mas mababa ang kanilang specific heat. So, using heat capacities, we can actually convert or derive the formula Q is equal to MC delta T. So, ito yung mga derivation. But of course, I will show you how to derive this without having to memorize all of this. Okay? So, our formula is Q is equal to MC delta T. Okay? Yan ang kapag ang nawawala ay yung heat. Paano naman kapag ang nawawala ay yung mass? So kapag yung mass mismo ang nawawala, so divide both sides kung sino yung mga kasama nung nawawala. So mass yung ating nawawala. That means we have to remove C delta T sa computation or sa equation. So divide both sides by C delta T. Sorry. Ayaw niyang ma-erase. So we have to divide both sides with C delta T. So cancel yung C, cancel yung delta T. So you will be left with mass is equal to Q over C delta T. Okay? Madali lang mag-convert ng unit. Madali lang mag-derive ng unit. Paano kapag Paano kapag si change in temperature nawawala? So Q is equal to MC delta T. Nawawala si delta T. So divide both sides dun sa kasama nung nawawala. So ang nawawala natin ay delta T. So we have to divide both sides with MC. So MC. Cancel M, cancel C. So delta T now will be equal to Q is equal to MC. Madali lang ang mag-derive. So there's no need for you to memorize all of this. Okay? So for example, number 1, how much heat is absorbed by liquid water that weighs 550 grams as it is heated from 25 degrees to 95 degrees Celsius? So here are our given. 550 grams. The substance is liquid water. And then the change in temperature is from 25 degrees to 95 degrees. So isa-isahin natin yung MC delta T. Ang tanong dito ay how much heat? Kaya question mark C, heat. Si M, itong 550 grams. Si C, liquid water, kaya ito si C. We can actually search for the specific heat of substances. And then change in temperature is 25 to 95 degrees Celsius. So since heat ang nawawala, our formula will remain as is. We are only going to have to multiply mass with specific heat and the change in temperature. The mass is 550 grams. The specific heat for liquid water, we have to specify kung anong phase siya kasi magkakaiba sila ng specific heat according to their phase. Liquid water is 4.18. Solid water or ice is 2.11. Water vapor or gaseous water is 2. So since dito ay liquid water, ang kukunin natin ay yung 4.18 joules. Next, the change in temperature. In order for you to compute for the change in temperature, so the change in temperature is equal to T final T final minus T initial. So we have to identify kung alin ang final at kung alin ang initial. Sabi niya from. So ibig sabihin nanggaling sa. Ibig sabihin yun yung initial. Doon nagmula. Tapos nakalagay dito to. Ibig sabihin papunta doon. So yun yung final. So in order to compute for the change in temperature, T final minus T initial, so that's 95 minus 25, that is equal to 70 degrees Celsius. Kaya 70 degrees Celsius. Next, cancel the units, cancel grams kasi may grams dito. Cancel Celsius, you will be left with joules. So 550 times 4.18 times 70, your heat will be equal to positive 160,930 joules. So that is the amount of heat that is absorbed. Okay? I hope naintindihan naman. Let's proceed to the second example. On the second example naman, how many grams of lead can be heated from 20 degrees Celsius to 75 degrees Celsius using 12,500 joules of heat? So dito naman, ang nawawalan natin ay yung ating mass ng lead. So using our formula, Q is equal to mc delta T, nawawala ang mass. So divide both sides doon sa kasama ng nawawala, which is C delta T. Ayaw ma-erase. Okay, so C delta T. So therefore, cancel C, cancel delta T. So mass now will be equal to Q over C delta T. Next, our value for Q is equal to 12,500 joules. Our C, ang sabi niya dyan ay lead. So hanapin natin yung lead sa ating table. So 0.13. So this is 0.13 joules over gram degree Celsius. And then our value for the change in temperature, sabi niya from 20 to 75. So hanapin natin yung difference between 75 and 20. So this is equal to 55 degrees Celsius. So cancel degrees Celsius, cancel joules, you will be left with grams. So your final answer will be 1,748.25 grams of lead. Okay, if you have no question or if you can still, what do you call this? If you can still follow, raise your hand. Okay, that's great. Naka more than half tayo naman nag-raise ng hand. So that means nakaka-follow pa kayo. That's nice to know. Next, what is the final temperature after 84,000 joules is absorbed by 10 kilograms of basalt at 25 degrees Celsius? Okay? So dito naman ang tanong, ano yung final temperature? Ang given natin ay yung heat na 84,000. So this is heat. And then we also have, circle na lang. And then we also have the weight, which is 10 grams. Alam din natin yung C kasi binigay yung given, which is basalt. So meron sa ating formula, meron tayong Q is equal to mc delta T. Meron tayong Q, meron tayong C, meron tayong mass. So hanapin muna natin yung change in temperature. So in order to get the change in temperature, divide both sides sa kasama nung nawawala. So divide both sides, bakit nag-oo siya? See. So ang nawawala sa atin ay yung change in temperature. Kaya ilagay natin sa denominator yung mga kasama nung nawawala. MC. So cancel M, cancel C. So delta T now is equal to Q over MC. Next, what is our value for Q? So Q is equal to 84,000 joules. Next, our mass is 10 grams. Yun nga lang kasi 'di ba sinabi natin na every unit should abide sa unit ng specific heat. So since grams ang nasa specific heat, dapat grams din yung magiging weight ng magiging unit ng mass natin. So we have to convert 10 kilograms to grams. So 10 times 1,000, it will become 10,000 grams. And then our C, which is basalt, is 0.84. Andito siya. So 0.84 joules over gram degrees Celsius. So cancel gram, cancel joules, you will be left with degrees Celsius. So your answer here will be equal to, hindi nakalagay. So let us compute using our calculator. Hopefully you are computing on your own. So alamin natin, paki-type sa ating in-call messages kung ano ang sagot. Okay, so what is our answer? Okay, tama ang inyong sagot. So tama ang sagot nila Feby, nila Ian, ni Delmore, ni Christine, ni Carrie, ni Bernelyn at ni Jan. 10 ang ating change in temperature. At ni Revelyn. So this is equal to 10 degrees Celsius. So our change in temperature is 10 degrees Celsius. Pero ang hinahanap natin dito sa question ay yung final temperature. So that means yung sagot ay yung nakalagay na temperature dito, this is our initial temperature. How do we find the final temperature? So the change in temperature is equal to T final minus T initial, di ba? Now, in order to get the final temperature, we have to convert this formula. So the final temperature is equal to the change in temperature plus our initial temperature. Okay? So our change in temperature, yung na-compute natin is 10 degrees Celsius. At ang initial temperature natin ay 25 degrees Celsius. Nandito siya. Ayan yung 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. So 10 degrees Celsius plus 25 degrees Celsius. So this will be equal to 35 degrees Celsius. So this is our answer. So ibig sabihin, the final temperature after this is 35 degrees Celsius. Okay? Now, I have to ask all of you, sa ating module, I don't remember kasi, sa ating module ba, meron ba tayong standard molar enthalpy of reaction? I-check ko na rin sa ating module. Hanapin ko ng sandali. Kasi I don't know if this is included or not because I am recycling the PowerPoint that I made use during face-to-face. So may kasama bang standard molar enthalpy? Wait, i-check ko na rin. So, kung naintindihan ng ating lesson, sad react sa ating in-call messages. Sana naman hindi pa kayo nawiwindang sa ating lesson. Okay, no, we do not have standard molar enthalpy sa ating module number 9. So that means we will proceed now with module number 10. Thank you for all of those reacts. At least I know na nandiyan pa kayo na kahit na medyo marami na tayong computation sa ating lessons or kahit na meron kayong ibang ginagawa like nagbe-breakfast kayo or nagluluto kayo, at least alam ko na nandiyan pa rin kayo. I will add my PowerPoint for module number 10. Where's my PowerPoint? Wait lang, bakit hindi ko siya ma-add? Okay, so since wala naman ng computation sa module number 10, I will simply discuss this to you. Window. Okay. Module number 10 discusses the different factors that affect reaction rate or kung gaano kabilis or kabagal yung ating chemical reaction. So for the lesson objectives, to measure the reaction rates of some chemical reactions. Bakit siya nagzo-zoom out? Okay. Now, these are the different factors that affects the rate of chemical reaction. Particle and collision, temperature, concentration and pressure, surface area, and catalyst. We can actually categorize this into two. Number one is frequency of reaction. The second one is the energy requirement or activation energy. Now, when we say frequency, kung gaano kadalas. So, frequent, di ba? So, for example, ilang beses ka sa isang araw? 5 to 6 times a day. So that's frequent, madalas. Now, may kinalaman ang frequency ng pag-collide ng mga particles sa kanilang speed ng chemical reaction. Because the faster or the higher the amount of collision, then that means the higher the, what do you call this? The higher the rate of the reaction will become. The other one is called activation energy. When we say activation energy, hindi lang kasi kailangan na mag-collide yung mga particles natin. They must collide na may specific amount of energy yung collision nila para magkaroon ng chemical reaction. Kasi kapag kulang yung amount ng energy nila, kahit na ilang beses sila mag-collide, walang mangyayaring chemical reaction. So we have frequency and energy. To summarize the requirement for the sorry, to summarize the factors that affects the chemical reaction. So under frequency, nandiyan yung temperature, concentration, pressure, and surface area. For energy requirement, nandiyan yung catalyst. So what does rate of reaction mean? So the speed of different chemical reactions vary hugely. So yung iba mabilis, yung iba mabagal. Some reactions are very fast and the others are very slow. The speed of a reaction is called the rate of the reaction. Ano ba yung mga rate ng reaction natin? It could be slow, it could be fast, or it could be very fast. Slow meaning it could take days or years to undergo. So for example, yung rusting ng mga tin cans natin, kasi yung mga tin cans natin ngayon na ginagamit sa canned foods, meron siyang layer of coating para hindi siya agad-agad na magkaroon ng anong tagal ng rust? I forgot. Okay, para hindi siya magkaroon ng rust. So it could take 5 years, 10 years bago siya mag-rust at matotally na ma-disintegrate. What about fast? It could take a few minutes or a few hours, kagaya ng baking, kagaya ng cooking. Samantalang pag-explosion, ito yung mga seconds lang ang kailangan para mag-undergo siya ng reaction. So those are the different rates at which reactions take place. So, bakit nga ba yung ibang reaction ay mabilis, yung ibang mabagal? So, what can we say about the image being shared right now? there are two colors. We have the orange ones and the blue ones. So generally, if we're going to analyze this picture, we can see that the orange ones are the ones with high energy. Bakit? Sila yung mga nakangiti. Sila yung mga mabibilis magpaandar kasi meron tayong mga parang mga movement na parang lines. Movement lines. Ayan. So, ibig sabihin sila yung mabilis magpaandar. Samantalang yung mga blue ones, parang sila yung walang pakialam or yung mga mahina sa energy. Yung iba natutulog lang, yung iba nakatingin lang, nakatunganga. So, we could say that these are the ones with low energy. Now, kung titignan din natin, sino ba ang mas mataas na chance sa magkaroon ng collision or magbanggaan? Siyempre, yung mga mas mataas ang kanilang energy. So reactions take place when particles collide with certain amount of energy. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, na hindi lang kailangan na mag-collide or magkaroon ng collision yung mga particles para magkaroon ng chemical reaction or para malaman natin kung mabilis or mabagal. There must be a specific amount of energy present during the collision in order for the chemical reaction to take place. We call that energy requirement, we call that activation energy. Okay? So yun yung kailangan ng energy in order for a chemical reaction to take place. So the rate of reaction depends upon two things. Ito na yun, yung frequency and then yung energy. For frequency, we have the following: temperature, concentration, pressure, surface area, and for energy naman, we have catalyst. So how does these following affect our rate of reaction? So reactions do not proceed at a steady state. So ibig sabihin, hindi siya diretso lang na mabilis or diretso mabagal. So sa umpisa, masyadong mabilis kasi marami pang reactants na present. So they start off at a certain speed and then habang tumatagal, lalong bumabagal hanggang sa mag-stop na yung chemical reaction. Bakit kaya? Kasi habang dumadami ay sa umpisa pa lang kasi panay reactants pa lang. Yung mga magko-combine pa lang para magkaroon ng chemical reaction. Habang tumatagal kasi, mas marami ang nabubuo na product. Itong mga product na to, hindi na to mag-undergo ng chemical reaction. So magiging parang balakid na lang siya. So nagiging, what do you call this? Yung mga reactants, nagko-collide sila with each other. Yun nga lang, habang dumadami yung product, yung mga hindi na pwede mag-react, same pa rin yung collision, pero parang nagiging harang sila para makapag-collide yung mga reactants. Kaya nagdi-decrease yung ating progression ng rate of reaction. This reduces the frequency of collisions between particles and so the reaction will slow down. Okay? So number one, let us have a short review. Number one, a chemical reaction can only take place when reactant particles blank with each other. The answer here is, i-type sa ating in-call messages. Okay. Yes, that is correct. Tama sila. Miles, Delmar, Tricia, Angela, Joy. They will, a chemical reaction can only take place when reactant particles collide with each other. Tama sila, Joy. Okay. Number two, particles must collide with enough blank to react. Ano yung first blank natin? Particles must collide with enough blank to react. Okay, correct. Energy. Tama sila Tricia, si Delmar, si Joy, si Jan, si Jasmine, si Joanna, Christine, at Berneline. They must collide with enough energy. This is called the blank energy. What is the next blank? Okay, correct. Activation energy. The particles need enough energy to react. This energy requirement is called activation energy. And then last one, the rate of a reaction depends on the blank and energy with which particles collide. The third, number three, what is our number three? It is, okay, correct, Joanna. It is frequency. Christine, Ursel, Jasmine, Tricia. So hindi lang dapat sapat yung energy, dapat mataas din yung frequency, yung gano'n kadala sila na magkaroon ng collision. Now we go to temperature. So how does temperature affect the rate of particle collision? So temperature is also synonymous with the amount of energy present. So sa left side, if you can see this, mapapansin ninyo na walang ganap, walang nangyayari. So we could say that this is low in temperature. Samantalang sa right side, sa orange side, maraming nangyayari, maraming ganap. Ang dami nang nasunog, ang dami nang nagliliparan, pero nakangiti pa rin siya, happy pa rin siya. So, mataas ang energy ng nasa right side. So, saan mas mataas na pwede magkaroon ng sakuna? Na pwede magkaroon ng ganap? So, of course, doon sa mas mataas ang energy. Bakit kaya? The higher the temperature, the faster the rate of reaction. So in many reactions, a rise in temperature of 10 degrees causes the rate of reaction to approximately double. Bakit kaya tumataas ang rate of reaction pag tumataas ang temperature? Kasi habang tumataas ang temperature, tumataas din yung energy ng mga particles. Kapag mataas ang energy nila, mas mabilis ang kanilang movement. Bakit kaya kapag kayo ay nagpapainit ng tubig, habang tumatagal na naka-expose sa init yung tubig, lalong gumugulo yung takip, lagi siyang nagmo-move. Kasi kapag mataas yung energy na nanggagaling sa heat na inaabsorb ng water, yung mga water particles, inaabsorb din niya yung energy. And as the water absorbs the energy coming from the heat, some of them escapes from the substance or some of them escapes from the water, nagiging water vapor sila kasi masyado mataas yung energy nila. At dahil mataas yung energy ng mga water vapor, meron silang kakayanan na i-push pataas yung takip. Kaya gumagalaw-galaw yung takip. Okay? So that means the higher the temperature, the movement will become faster, the energy will become higher. At dahil doon, mas tumataas yung frequency ng collision. Wala siyang animation guys, pero in our PowerPoint presentation or I mean in our video discussion, meron siyang animation. Okay? So dito kasi sa blue one, mas mababang energy sa right side, sa red, mas mataas ang energy kaya mas mataas ang collision. Now we go to concentration. Okay, let us have an analogy when it comes to temperature. For example, meron tayong dalawang bata. Yung isang bata ay, what do you call this? Meron siyang chronic fatigue syndrome. Ito yung parang lagi siyang pagod. Kaya pagdating ng classroom, tulog. Pagkauwi ng bahay, tulog. After kumain, tulog. Samantalang yung isa, meron naman siyang ADHD. Ito yung hyperactive na bata. So dahil hyperactive siya, minsan kapag nasa classroom siya, nakaupo siya, after 1 second, nasa labas na, after 1 second, nasa 5th floor na, after another second, nasa 1st floor na. Paano nangyari yun? Kasi either umakyat siya or nag-elevator or tumalon, bahala siya dyan. So sino yung mas mataas na chance na magkakaroon ng accident sa kanilang dalawa? Of course, the one with the ADHD. The one with the higher energy will have the higher rate na magkaroon siya ng accident or collision. Okay? Now we go to concentration. The higher the concentration, the faster the rate of reaction. So concentration comes into effect kapag ang pinag-uusapan natin ay solid at liquid. Okay? Bakit kaya tumataas ang rate of reaction kapag mataas ang concentration? Kasi kapag mas mataas ang concentration, mas maraming particles doon sa same amount of space. Now in this box, we have the same amount of spaces. Yun nga lang kasi sa left side, kokonti as compared sa right side. So sino ang mas madalas sa magkakaroon ng collision? Siyempre yung mas mataas ang bilang, yung mas mataas ang concentration. Therefore, the particles are more likely to collide and more likely to react. Okay? So ayun, animation uli nasa ating video lesson, wala sa ating PowerPoint presentation. This is because during the previous time that I made those video lesson, Microsoft 2016 pa ang gamit ko, Microsoft Office 2016. Nag-run pa siya ng JavaScript ng mga Flash players. Samantalang yung 2019, tapos yung mga recent na Microsoft Office, hindi na siya nag-run ng Flash player kasi pwede siyang makapag-spread ng virus. Kaya dinisable na yung Flash player. Kaya wala na yung animation dito. However, if you want to see the animation, feel free to visit our video discussion. Okay? Ano ang pwede nating ihalin tulad dito sa concentration? So for example, sa classroom, or for example, sa bahay ninyo, you have uh, 4 members in the family. Nanay, tatay, kayong dalawang magkapatid. Kapag kayo ay nasa bahay ninyo, then that means kokonti kayo, less likely na magkaroon kayo ng banggaan. 'Di ba? Pag naglalakad. Imagine na meron kayong okasyon na buong angkan ninyo mula sa kanununuan ninyo, yung mga angkan ninyo, mga kamag-anak ninyo ay nagkita-kita, nagkaroon ng reunion sa bahay ninyo. Of course, mas maraming tao, tapos kapag lahat ay nagmamadali, tapos lahat ay active, then that means mas marami yung bilang ng mga tao na active, mas mataas yung tsansa na magkabanggaan kayo. Mas mataas yung rate ng collision kapag mas mataas yung concentration or mas marami yung bilang. Next, what about pressure? Now, kung ang concentration is involving solids and liquids na nakadissolve sa ating substance, for pressure naman, this is only applicable to gases. Bakit kaya? Kasi ang gases natin, mataas ang kanilang compressibility or to be able to be compressed. Ang solid, kapag pinilit mong mag-exert ng mag-effort or mag-exert ng work, hindi siya gaanong compressible. Samantalang pag gases, kapag yung balloon, pinisil mo siya, pwede siyang mag-shrink, pwede siyang mag-shrink, kaya lumiliit. Kaya lumiliit yung space. Okay? So why does increasing pressure of gaseous reactants increase the rate of reaction? That is because, for example, this is the container. Kapag nag-exert ka ng pressure sa walls ng container, the container will decrease in volume. So since magdi-decrease in volume, lilit yung space dun sa loob ng container. Now, since the space becomes smaller, mas magiging magkakalapit yung mga particles ng ating reactants. As the pressure increases, the spaces in which the gas particles are moving becomes smaller. Now, as it becomes smaller, there is a higher chance na magkaroon ng particle collision. Kasi mas malapit sila sa bawat isa. This means the particles are more likely to react. Next, surface area. So any reaction involving a solid can only take place at the surface of the solid. Okay? Now, surface area is only applicable for solids. So for example, we have this block. Ang kanyang surface area lang ay yung kanyang mga sides lang. So since this block have 6 sides, yun lang yung surface area niya. If we are going to cut this block into 2, madadagdagan yung kanyang surface area. Kasi dito ay 1, 2, 3, tapos yung nasa magkabilang dulo, 4, 5, tapos yung nasa ilalim ay 6. Dito naman, magkakaroon ng additional surface area. So magiging 7, tapos sa kabila, 8. Kapag hinati pa natin, ang dami na. So ibig sabihin, mag-i-increase yung surface area. If the solid is split into several pieces, the surface area increases. Ano ngayon kapag mataas ang surface area? Mas marami yung spaces na pwedeng magkaroon ng particle collision. The smaller the pieces, the larger the surface area. The larger the surface area, the greater the collision, the higher the chance of reaction. Okay? So for example, kapag meron kayong sugar cube, tapos meron kayong powdered sugar, ihahalo nyo yun sa tubig. Alin ang mas madaling matunaw? Of course, yung powdered sugar kasi bawat particle, buong particle na yun ay surface area niya. Samantalang yung sugar cube, kung ano lang yung naka-expose sa tubig, yun lang yung kanyang surface area. Yun lang ang mag-react agad. Kaya mas mabilis matunaw ang powdered sugar as compared to sugar cube kasi yung powdered sugar sa bawat granules niya, yung buong surface niya, it is its surface area. Whereas in the sugar cube, only the exposed parts are the surface area. So ganun uli. Animation is in our video lesson for module number 10. So tapos na tayo sa frequency. Under frequency of collision, nandoon ang temperature, surface area, concentration, pressure. Next, we go to energy. Under energy, we have the catalyst. So kapag sinabi natin na catalyst, these are substances that change the rate of reaction without being used up. So hindi siya nagagamit. Hindi siya nauubos. Okay? Ano ba yung energy requirement na to? Ano ba tong activation energy na to? So the activation energy is the energy needed in order for a chemical reaction to take place kapag nagko-collide ang mga substances. So for example, ito yung reactants natin. They must have a certain amount of energy in order for them to undergo chemical reaction. Kapag walang catalyst, mataas yung energy requirement natin. Ganito kataas yung energy requirement natin para mag-undergo ng chemical reaction. Yun nga lang kasi kapag nag-introduce ka ng catalyst, mas bababa ang ating energy requirement para magkaroon ng chemical reaction. Ngayon naman, paano ba gumagana ang catalyst? Gumagana ang catalyst by giving another pathway. So, ibig sabihin, hindi naman niya actually totoong pinapababa. Ang ginagawa niya lang ay binibigyan niya ng another pathway yung chemical reaction in order for it to take place. Okay? So, all in all, to summarize, para lang sa madaling salita, it lowers the activation energy by providing pathways. Okay? So, ano ngayon? Nakalagay ba sa ating, okay, hindi nakalagay. So, ano ngayon kapag merong catalyst? Ano ang kanyang benefit? Number one, since bumababa ang energy requirement sa mga pabrika, sa mga, what do you call this, sa mga food processing factories or kaya anong factory yan, since bumababa yung energy requirement kapag merong catalyst, mas bumababa yung konsumo nila ng kuryente. Okay? So since mas bumababa ang konsumo nila ng kuryente, hindi nila yun ibabalik sa mga consumers. Hindi nila yun, instead na ang magiging bentahan nila ng kanilang product ay 20 pesos kasi mahal ang kuryente na nagamit nila, dahil mas mababa yung kuryente na ginamit, magiging 15 pesos na lang. So, financially, economically, it is a good way to use catalyst para bumaba yung energy requirement. Okay? So that is one benefit of making use of catalyst. Meron tayong mga catalyst na mga metals kagaya ng nickel, ng iron, ng platinum. Meron din tayo sa katawan natin. However, sa katawan natin, ang catalyst, ang tawag natin doon ay enzyme. So when we say enzyme, these are biomolecules or biological molecules that act as a catalyst. Pinapabilis niya yung reaction. Ganun din by lowering the activation energy. Andito pala yung mga importance nila. So, sa products, it could save time, it could save money, mas mabilis na na-produce yung mga product. And then, since catalysts reduce the need for high temperature, it saves fuel and reduces pollution, and pinapababa niya yung price ng mga products. So, catalysts are also essential for living things. These biological catalysts or biocatalysts are called enzymes. Okay? So yun lang po ang module number 10 natin. And that also concludes our discussion and review for our exam, which will be on Friday next week at 10:30 a.m. Okay? So do you have any question? We still have 14 minutes to cater questions. Feel free to unmute yourself. Kailan po yung exam? Exam is Friday. That is, wait lang, let me check the calendar. The exam is February 4. That's Friday next week, 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. You have 130 minutes to answer our exam. Ano ang coverage ng exam? Modules number 7, 8, 9, 10. Next, ang exam natin ay 10 points na true or false. 10, sorry, ulit. Ang exam natin ay 10 points na multiple choice. 20, ay sorry, shoot, nalito ako. Ang exam natin ay 10 points na true or false. 20 points na multiple choice about concepts, about understanding the topics, and then 10 points for computation. Yung division ng items ay pantay-pantay. Kung ilan yung true or false so number, kung ilan yung number ng question sa module number 7, ganun din sa module number 8, ganun din sa module number 9, ganun din sa module number 10. Any other question? Thank you, Neil, for asking. Now, yung mga nag-report ng kanilang FinmaEd Gmail sa akin, na-forward ko na actually kahapon pa. Yung mga nag-report kaninang umaga lang, na-forward ko na na-report ko na bago pa tayo mag-start ng ating review. Okay? If we do not have any more question, then we will have an early lunch. And then, hopefully, you will do your best for your exam week next week. Kasi ang exam week natin ay Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Walang Tuesday kasi ang Tuesday ay February 1. That's Chinese New Year. So, holiday ang Feb 1. Okay? Now, I will be posting this review. Hindi na. Yung 10 points sa modules, yung 10 points na true or false, pinaghalong 7, 8, 9, 10. Pero kapag titignan mo, yung number of points ng module number 7, 8, 9, 10, pantay-pantay overall. Okay? So for example, sa module number 1, it is equal to 15 points. Module 7 is equal to 15 points pag pinagsama-sama mo lahat. Module number 8 is also 15 points. 9 is also 15 points. Number 10 is also 15 points. Okay, so kung wala nang katanungan, then thank you guys for joining and hopefully you will be Yes, John Ray. Okay, baka napindot lang ni John Ray. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Good luck on your exams and do not forget to answer seat work 3.2. The deadline will be today, okay? 5 p.m. Doon sa mga hindi pa nila ma-access ang Finma Gmail nila, I will be PMing you individually. Yes na, recorded dito. Okay, thank you everyone. We can now leave our Google Meet. Thank you. Sorry, hindi ako nag-open cam.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you po.
Sorry, hindi ako nag-open cam kasi not feeling well lahat ng mga teachers yung ata ngayon. So, thank you guys.
Thank you po, sir. Thank you po,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Bye-bye.